Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's My Sport event session. My name is Toby, and I'm the founder of My Sport. All right. And a quick introduction of what we are doing in My Sport. My Sport is basically connecting African talents in brand marketing, design, and technology to businesses, right? So with us, businesses can find, hire, and work with African talents. We are solving the problem of talent acquisition from emerging markets like Nigeria and other parts of Africa. We feel like with the right means, with the right opportunity, access, and resources and skill, the sky is just the starting point for African talents. We are using my sport events, webinars like this to inspire people who are learning a skill, getting started on a tech skill, or who would want mentorship or gain access to like a community of talents, right? And today we have with us Lisha Lois. Okay, so
Hi, everyone.
a quick introduction, right? So Lois is a product designer and tech content creator who believes in the transformative power of thoughtful design, right? With a robust background of 5 years, she has collaborated with forward-thinking brands, crafting user-centered solutions that blend empathy and innovation. She has lots of open source contributions to the product design ecosystem. Outside of work, Lois enjoys spending quality time with loved ones, indulging in delicious food, and creating funny memes to bring a smile to others' faces. Welcome, Lois. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Amazing. So I'll just
Yeah.
pin you and then we can just get started immediately. Right. So
Okay.
we the first thing we do basically for every expert we bring on board is to just learn about their journey, where they are coming from. We see all the glams, we see all the glitz, we see all the applause when you do a post on LinkedIn, right? But how did you get here? Like, what was the learning curve for you? Did you always know you be a product designer, right? What was that curve like for you? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay. Let me start. First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity, Toby. I'm super excited to be here. Like you already said, my name is Lois, and today I'll be talking about breaking into product design, a beginner's guide. So, let me just tell you a little about myself. I have a background in graphic design, graphic and brand design, and I'm also a design educator and a product builder and a meme curator and a foodie, just like Toby said. And I have 5 years experience in product design and I have 2 years experience in mentoring, in design leadership. So basically mentoring junior and mid-level designers. So a bit about my background. I never actually like saw myself being a designer, right? It's one of those, you know, you're about to finish school, let's not hold you. I don't want to start looking for a job. So that was like it for me, right? And I think years before that, when I was like a little child, I learned a bit about graphics. I worked in a all those print shops where they do like cards, business cards, all those things, right? But then it was like Corel Draw back then. I learned how to type. So, but fast forward to like me, uni third year, I was studying biochemistry, and then I realized, I'm not sure I'm going to do this, and then I don't want to finish school and be jobless. So yeah, I think that's where I now started like picking up design again, and this time it was I started with graphics. It was Photoshop, Illustrator, logos, flyers, and eventually, I think like a few years down the line, I got tired of designing flyers and logos, and I wanted to do like something a bit more technical, and that was how I got to product design. So behind the scenes, I would say my journey is not like the easiest journey in the world. Just like Toby said that, there's a lot behind the glitz and the glam. Like I would say that I've really suffered in this my design journey, right? But then it's been good all the way. It's been good regardless of that. uh I have personally been a victim of the layoffs that you've said, and not just once, two times. But then, glory be to God, I bounced back. Well, enough of the sad stories and good stories. Let's just dive right in. Or do you have anything else to say, Toby, before we move forward?
I mean, do you have like you have a slide you liked a presentation already? Would you
Oh
want
yeah,
to
yeah,
run that?
it's showing now.
I
Can you
see
see
it.
it?
I can see it, yes. Okay, so do you have a presentation?
Okay.
I can leave you to just do your presentation and we take questions afterwards.
All right, no problem, no problem. Okay,
Okay,
welcome
great.
everyone. Please just type your name in the comment section. My name is this, and then where you're joining us from, just to like network and get to know each other. Anyways, let me get while you're doing that. Let me just get started with my topic for today. So I'll be talking about breaking into product design, a beginner's guide, and so let me start with how to start a career in product design. So if you want to start a career in product design, one of the first things first is like you have to understand what product design is, you know, and product design basically focuses on creating functional, user friendly, and aesthetically pleasing solutions for digital products and sometimes physical products too. And when you understand what product design is, you also have to know like the skills that are required. So if you want to start out in product design, you have to learn about user experience design, that's UX, user interface design, that's UI. You have to learn about problem solving, design thinking, prototyping, and you have to learn about business. You have to learn about user research. Again, if you also want to become a product designer, you have to know the tools to use. So we have Figma, Sketch, Adobe XD. Although Figma is like the current industry standard for a lot of product design work and sometimes even graphic design too. So knowing what product design is, knowing the skills that are required, and knowing the tools to learn, right? And the second thing you want to do is to build your knowledge base. So what do I mean by knowledge base? I mean, like, you're not going to magically become a product designer. You have to learn. So building your knowledge base means taking an online course. I would recommend places like Coursera, Udemy, Design Labs, and all of that. And or even joining a boot camp, right? So when you check online, there are like a lot of free boot camps. In fact, I think there are more boot camps than people these days. So I would recommend joining a boot camp and starting to learn about design principles, color theory, typography, layout, and all those things about design, and of course, user-centered design. So, and I would also recommend you understanding how the industry works. So, to understand how the industry works, you read articles, check case studies, read books, and then, of course, ask people like people who have been there before you how the industry works. So you can also take the self-learning part. As if you're not taking like a professional course or you're joining a boot camp, there's a self-learning part where you use YouTube tutorials, design blogs, and open source educational content. Although I highly recommend that you actually take a course or you join a boot camp because of the structure. I learned as a like I was self-taught, but looking back at it, some of the things I wish that somebody taught me and guided me like with in a more structured way, right? So I don't really recommend like if you're a beginner being a self learner. I recommend taking a course, joining a boot camp, right, and then buttressing it with self learning because sometimes with self learning you're not really sure what you're learning and what you're not learning, right? And you make a lot of mistakes. But then when you have like a structured platform, there's someone to guide you. It makes your learning a bit faster. Something that'll probably take you like a year to figure out in 6 months just because you have the right people and the right resources around you. So yeah, in case you're having like conflict about which one to follow, I recommend you taking online courses and joining a boot camp. So the next thing you want to do is to create a roadmap for yourself, right? Of course, joining a boot camp or taking a course already sort of puts some structure, but then I always recommend that you have your own personal structure with milestones, because when you say, "Oh, I want to be a product designer," or "I want to do this," it's such a vague plan, right? This is not even just about design, even generally life. Like I work on a lot of like open source resources, and trust me, I did not just wake up and they just came out. Like I thought about it, I planned towards it. In fact, I had like the list of things that I said I was going to work on and the timelines to them. So yeah, having like your own personal roadmap For example, like something I just illustrated here, maybe you can decide that in 6 months' time, I'm going to transition, I'm going to become a product designer, right? In the first month, I'll learn about this. In the second month, I'll learn about this. By the sixth month, I'll start building projects, building my portfolio. And then having a plan just gives you like a direction, right? Because uh, when you have no plan, you literally don't know what you're doing. So, yeah, I would recommend having a roadmap. So now the other point is to develop key skills. So what are some of the key skills in product design? One of the foundational key skills in product design is user research. So learning how to identify users' needs, users' pain points, and then do things like conduct interviews and all of that. There's also the wireframing and the prototyping parts, and there's the visual design part. So the visual design is all the colors, the text, typography, the icons that you see, and also collaboration part. So in design is not a standalone career. It's a very cross-functional career where you get to work with like engineers, product managers, marketing, like all content writers, all sorts of people. So you have to learn how to collaborate, and you also familiarize yourself with tools like Slack and Jira for project management. So the fourth thing, when you're done, you've decided to take a course or you decided to self-learn. Now you've gone through the basics of design. You've learned a couple of things here and there. The next step would be to create a portfolio, right? So how do you create a portfolio? I would recommend not waiting till you're perfect to have a portfolio. You can start from wherever you are, right? Because one thing we have in a portfolio is designers are always like, oh my God, I want my portfolio to be like the best thing in the world. And then they spend 2 years. Where's your portfolio? 2 years, they don't have a portfolio, right? It's better when you have a portfolio, you have it. Once you have it, you have it. You can always go back, refine things, change colors, improve on your case study, right? If you have a case study that's already there, that needs to be better, you go back, make it better, make it like more catchy and all of that, change your portfolio structure. But once you have it, you have it. So I recommend don't wait till like you're perfect. As soon as you can, as soon as you're learning, start documenting and keeping things for your portfolio. So yeah, start small with your portfolio, right? So for an absolute beginner who has no experience, what are some of the things you can do? You can redesign existing products and make it better. You can also solve fictional problems, right? Maybe come up with ideas, come up with interesting things. So one of the core things about being a product designer is that you're a creative person. Creative person means that obviously there will be so many ideas in your head. So you want to be able to like explore them. They might not be real, but just, you know, express your creativity. So in your portfolio too, you want to be able to show your process, right? So it's not just about like the design itself, and show how you went from it just being an idea to like how you research to like buttress the idea, how you interpret like information from the research, and then how you show your final design. So another thing you want to include in your portfolio is like impact. Impact a lot of times in metrics. How did your design solve a problem, right? And in terms of percentages, conversion rates, all of those things, you can also give like figures. Maybe your design made company $5 million. You could add those kind of things, nice. Or your design made the onboarding better, increased number of users. So you want to also highlight your impact that's in your portfolio that you're creating, right? So when you're done creating your portfolio, I'll talk much further about portfolio like in because we still have like a lot more to talk about. So the next thing you want to do is to find a way to gain real world experience, because there's a very big difference between the personal projects that you work on, fancy things here and there, from how products work in real life, right? So in this, I would recommend like freelancing, because when you're starting out your career, sometimes getting a full-time job might be very hard, right? So in this part, you want to maybe like try freelancing, try applying for internships and collaborating, because you would see like people, if you're part of design communities, like the design community and part of design bodies, there's always somebody saying, oh, I'm working on this, I need someone to collaborate with. So yeah, or you could even collaborate with your peers, like peer-to-peer collaboration is also there. And then look out for like competitions around, hackathons that you can join, excuse me, and then be part of it. So another thing you want to do is also network, right? Because you having nice portfolio will not automatically like bring you a job. So I'm saying the job because everything you're learning is so that you can get a job. It's not like you're learning it to play around so that you can get a job. So another thing you want to do is to network, right? network with people, be part of like the conversations going around, engage on platforms like Dribble, Behance, LinkedIn, Twitter. LinkedIn, very important. As much as people don't like LinkedIn, they feel like it's all like fake and all of that. Trust me, LinkedIn is a like if you're sleeping on LinkedIn, you're missing out on a lot, right? So yeah, engage on those platforms, right? uh Join events too, like when there's an event happening, virtual events, physical event, try to like be a part of it, right? Network. Although when it comes to networking, my personal opinion is that you should not over expect from networking. So here's what I mean by over expect from networking. You just assume that you're going to go to this mad conference and you're going to meet this founder from this company and he's going to see you or just give you a job, right? So I would say like network, but like don't over expect from like networking, right? It might not be like that, it might, but just try to like manage your expectations about networking. There's nobody anywhere that has like, I don't know if you've seen this meme that said, guy, I say I did look for job. You can't send me link me I apply. I bet put me inside the company because nobody, even if your friend works in like Meta or somewhere, it's not like they have access to like, oh, just give people job, right? So that's why you have to manage your expectations when it comes to networking. There's no big man, big woman anywhere that has like jobs to like give you, right? So network, but like try to manage your expectations. So of course you want to apply for jobs. So when it comes to applying for jobs, I know you've heard things like applying for a job is a job itself, and that's true. Applying for jobs is like one of the most hectic things you could ever do in this life, right? Because especially with how competitive the market is right now. But then at this point, you're in your product design journey, you can look out for roles like junior product designer role or just product designer or UX designer role. So sometimes the titles alternate: UX designer, product designer, UI designer, um, all of those things. There's this huge argument about is product design and UI UX the same thing. To be honest, I don't know. I just know that I can do the job, right? And in times where I've been a UI UX designer and I've been a product designer, I literally did the same thing, right? Many in more big tech companies, they might have like very, very niched roles, but to be honest, a product designer can do what a UI UX can do, UX designer can do. Like, you understand, you get the point, right? So the next thing you want to do is to as you're applying for jobs, make sure you're tailoring your CV to them. So this is where I say that job applications are consuming. They are very, very time consuming and mentally draining. So you want to customize your resume for like each job that you're applying for and be persistent, right? I would say don't give up. It might take a while for you to like land your first role or your first big role, but just be consistent, just be patient. Job hunt is not easy at all, right? So I would also recommend sharing your work publicly because in fact, just take this as one of the most important points I've shared. Share your work. Share your work like your life depends on it. Because if you don't share your work, you're leaving a lot on the table, right? So think about yourself as a designer, like a business owner who's selling like amazing things, but nobody sees them. They're like hiding somewhere. Nobody sees what they do, right? So share your work, post your projects online, your designs, your case studies, your learning on different platforms: LinkedIn, Twitter, Behance, Dribble, even Instagram, even TikTok, right? As many platforms as you think you can do, because social media again is another work of its own. So I would also recommend documenting your journey, write about your design processes, your challenges, your successes. And then sometimes when it comes to sharing your work, a lot of people are afraid that, oh my God, I'm just a beginner. I don't really know much. Like, will people like judge me? So obviously, sharing your work means that you're opening yourself up to public criticism, whether you like it or not. Like, those things are going to come. But however, I would say like don't really think too much about what people would say, because sometimes we feel like people are thinking about us like, oh my God, they're just spending their whole time thinking about us. To be honest, a lot of people are too busy to be thinking about you. They have their own personal problems, right? And then even when you encounter those negativities that come from sharing your work, just don't let it get to you. Just keep, going. Or at whatever stage you are in your journey, whether you're a beginner, mid-level, senior, share your work. Of course, be humble about it. Like, let's say you're a junior and then you start posturing like, oh my God, I've arrived. Please don't do that. Right? It's just an example. So engage in building publicly or sharing publicly. Engage with community, right? So participate in design challenges, give and receive feedback, right? Join discussions that are going on. I think I already said something like that earlier. So of course, again, leverage platforms, share your portfolio, your thoughts on Medium. You can just write articles, Twitter, LinkedIn. Just use social media to your advantage, right? Because if you're leaving social media, You're leaving a lot on the table. So, okay, since we're taking questions in last, so I want to talk about skills, tools, and portfolio tips that can help you stand out as a product designer. So, what are some skills that will help you stand out as a designer? So, first of all, I would start with like the core foundations of design. When you think about design thinking, principles and elements of design, user research, user experience design, those things are very core, right? So even when it comes to visual design, when you see a design that is not in quotes given, most likely the problem is that the person is missing out on one or two principles and elements of design, right? So that's why those things, those foundations are very important. So know the foundational parts of your craft, like the back of your hand, right? Be very, very versed in it. It's like somebody that you're 20 years old and you didn't go through like primary school or nursery school, like it's going to show, right? Because those were like the foundational parts of your life. So it's going to show that you are not really taught well growing up because now you're an adult and your brain is like, you're going to be struggling. Anyway, so now to the skills that can help you stand out as a designer, because your understanding of user-centered design, design thinking, problem solving, how you approach problems, right? So I've also realized that certain companies are very process focused, certain companies are result focused. Me, I don't really like process focused because you're asking me, oh, what's your thoughts behind this design? Me, I don't even know. But anyways, regardless of that, you still have to know how to problem solve, how to present your design. So yeah, another thing again is wireframing, prototyping, like all the skills that has to do with like product design, your visual understanding of visual design, aligning the design to like the branding, your understanding of business, right? Because there is a business part of design, your understanding of knowing how to collaborate and communicate. These two things are very, very important because much more than your mad skills, you have to learn how to collaborate with people, how to communicate. Now, collaborating with people is a whole ball game of it on its own, right? Because you're going to meet lots of cool-headed and also crazy people along your journey. And if it's in a company, it's not your personal house. So you have to get along with people whether you like them or not. Just have to find a way, right? And make sure, you know, you put whatever conflict you think you have with them and for the better of the product that you're trying to achieve, right? So you have to learn how to collaborate, how to be diplomatic, even working with like stakeholders. You have to learn how to, sometimes you want to tell somebody that this is the craziest, oh sorry, this is like stupidest thing I've heard in my life. But you can't tell your boss that this is the stupidest thing they've heard in your life. You have to find a diplomatic way to say what you want to say, right? So that's where your communication skills come in, right? Also having a growth mindset because design is that kind of career. I think every career in tech actually it changes so much. Today it's okay. For example, when I started, it was Adobe XD, right? Because Sketch was like for only Apple products. I mean, only for Mac, only worked on Mac. But it was Adobe XD, and then before you know, it, we were hearing Figma, and everyone was like, "Oh, what's Figma? What's Figma?" And then, of course, it took a lot of us a while before we could move from Adobe XD to Figma. But that just shows you that you have to have a growth mindset. Design is always changing. Maybe we're going to wake up tomorrow and there's no Figma. You just have to adapt. So you have to be continually learning, continually practicing. Like you have to have a malleable mind, like being open to growth because things are always changing. And before, I think I think when I started, there was like no design system, and then all of a sudden, design system tokens, and all these technical words. Oh my God, what's that? So now you have to start learning again, and you have to catch up. So having a growth mindset is a skill that would help you stand out because things are always changing, right? So of course, technical. There's another one to technical knowledge. So when I mean technical knowledge, is like things like learning how to code. So now the question is, should designers code? To be honest, is not very important. But again, if you can, I would say it's not bad. You should learn it. But I know a whole lot of designers who don't know jack about code and they're very good at their craft and they have very, very good experiences, right? But then if you can, feel free to do it. It'll just help you be able to collaborate with like developers more and all of that. So now let's talk about tools that can help you stand out. Of course, knowing Figma is the current industry standard when it comes to product design. So knowing how to use Figma, how to go around the whole interface, how to like work well inside of Figma and do everything that you need to do very well. Of course, that's very, very important. and any other tool that you might use, maybe Sketch or Adobe XD. Mastering, I'll say having a good mastery of the design tool that you use, right? So there's also Adobe Creative Suite. So a lot of product designers don't know how to use Photoshop or Illustrator, but I would recommend that if you can learn a bit about it, right? You might not be like the Photoshop doing photo manipulation and all of that, but if you can learn about Photoshop, learn about Illustrator, especially Illustrator, I think, because Illustrator and Figma, like they work very well hand in hand because of like vector image, vector elements and all of that. So if you can learn a bit, just like add it to like your design tool sets, that would be nice, right? So of course, knowing how to use research tools like user testing. User testing is a platform for user testing, getting like customer feedback, learning how to use tools like Maze. They are all for like user testing and user research. So collaboration tools too. There's Mario and FigJam. I personally like FigJam a lot. That is for brainstorming, for whiteboarding and all of that. And when you like collaborate with your team to brainstorm together. There's also Notion for documentation and Trello, Jira. All those ones are just like project management tools. So now let's dive right into portfolios that stand out. So these are some of the features of portfolios that I think stand out. One is that they're always they have well curated case study, right? So what I mean by well curated case study is um as a designer, like personally, I have certain industries that I have in mind. Although I'm also flexible about it, like, okay, if I don't really work in that industry, it's still fine. But the way I've curated my own work, there's like a certain kind of industry or industries that I'm targeting, right? So, um, and then also when it comes to like your case studies, having like a very clear will I say direction or clear layout, clear layout of how your case study is showing your problem, your process, your solution, and then including your sketches, your iterations, your learnings, and all of that. So when it comes to writing case study, I think that's like a very huge topic on its own again. But I think someone asked me, so there was a mentorship program that I was part of, and someone asked if why do all case studies look alike? Should they look alike? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, because when it comes to product design, there's like a standard that has to be followed. Things have standard. Buttons have certain sizes. Fonts should be certain sizes. Icons should be certain sizes. If it's 24 pixels, 24 pixels. It cannot be 24.5, right? So they're like those guidelines. So it's like it's both a science and an art. Sort of that's the way I'll put it. So when it comes to your portfolio, because there's like a standard that you should cover, and then no, because you don't necessarily have to like, okay, this is the problem, this is the solution, this is you can put your own storytelling into your case study, right? Do what you want, make it interesting, right? Because I've seen lots of portfolio like you can do what you like, it's your portfolio, right? So that's why I'll say it's a yes and a no. Now, the other thing is portfolios that have clear visual consistency. So, if you say you're a designer, I have to see it in your portfolio. You can't say you're a designer and I'm seeing like 15 shades of blue on one design on your portfolio, rather. At least we should be able to tell from your portfolio itself that yes, you're a designer. So, portfolios that stand out, you see like a lot of clean layouts, cohesive branding, attention to details. So attention to detail is something that I personally struggle with, right? When it comes to like writing, because sometimes I'm working like really fast. So I make mistakes in like punctuations and words, right? So like those things. So it's something I try to pay very close attention to because and sometimes when I'm also tired, like you would know that I'm tired from the design because it's just all over the place. So yeah, there should be that visual consistency in if you want your portfolio to stand out. Clean layouts, creative branding, attention to detail. So of course, another thing is to be able to highlight your impact, especially with like I've seen like a lot of words from hiring managers saying that they don't want to just see like your okay, there's this like bootcamp style of case study, right? Like maybe in the first section, they want to be able to see like your impact, the outcome, like impact in metrics. Your design, like the example I gave earlier, my design made the company have $5 million. Is a word, but like, yeah. So you want to be able to like showcase your results. You want to be able to showcase results, impacts, and all of those things. Improved user experience. So impact could be a lot of things, to be honest. Like So many things could be classified under impact, right? So portfolios that stand out to have very unique touches. So here's what I mean by unique touches. Your portfolio doesn't have to look like every other person's portfolio, right? So in your portfolio, you could add, you could be playful around it. Although I would say don't overdo it, because sometimes you see portfolios that have animation, and like just looking at animation, I'm almost falling to the ground because the thing is just like all up in my eyes. So, but yeah, still being able to like add interactive elements, animations, micro interactions. You could even add 3D elements or even graphic elements to your portfolio. So my former portfolio, I think the hiring manager said she liked it because of like the header image there, right? And it just showed like, oh, this person has a very, because buttressing my background in graphics now and all of that. So it's your portfolio. You can literally do whatever it is you want to do. Just make sure that the layout is clean. It showcases your case study well, your product. But then feel free. Another thing is to feel free to just add your own personal branding to it. Add your unique style, your personality, your tone, design, your copy, that's your content. Make sure it's your own, right? So it's your own. I would say like don't be afraid to like explore. And hiring managers usually like to see portfolios that have those unique touches, right? Because it even creates a very outstanding impression on them. So here's what I mean. So this is my friend's portfolio, right? And it's like very weird. What do you mean by design makes me leave my bed? But then he said that the hiring manager saw it and really liked it. So that's just an example of like doing your own thing with your portfolio, right? So this is another portfolio. This one is like one of my personal favorites. And I like the way that the person infused a lot of illustrations to it. These two portfolios don't look alike, right? Different personalities, but like it's really like I really like this portfolio a lot. So that's something I would recommend. Like feel free to just be yourself. Just ensure that you are just presenting yourself well, but feel free to like add your personal touch. Now, when you're talking about portfolio, what should my portfolio contain? So your portfolio should have showcase at least three case studies, three detailed projects, right? Um, I don't really recommend two. I think three is like the least you should go. Four is the normal standard. Like everybody has four. So yeah, four is like the safe space to be at. And those case studies should show like your design process from your design thinking to research to like final outcome. Like I said, however, you can choose to use the normal cliche method. This is the problem, this is the solution. You can also choose to have write a story around it. However you choose to do it, just try to figure out what works for you in the end. So your portfolio should also, of course, same together with the case study, highlight how you're able to solve problems, user problems, business problems. Your portfolio should show like impacts, right? Measurable impacts. My design made the company $5 million. I'm saying this like, oh my god, it's going to happen soon. But yeah, your design should show like impact metrics, show like measurable results, right? Measurable results could be anything: increase user engagement, simplified workflow, better onboarding, helps them to launch their products, help them to get to Y Combinator, Techstar, whatever. Metrics could literally be anything, right? So your portfolio should also have show like your diverse skills, like a mix of like I can see that, oh, this person knows how to wireframe well, they know how to prototype well, they have strong visual design skill, they're also very good in research, and then like, oh, I can see like design systems. Okay, this is really good. So now your portfolio should also have like an about me section. So this is where you just play around with yourself. Some people recommend keeping the about me section very short. Some people say just feel free to play around. In the end, I honestly say that there's no rule to this one. It's your portfolio. However you want to do it, feel free. And then you should also like your portfolio should also have like a contact details and maybe links to like other um design platforms that you post your work at, right? Just to give it more credibility. So a list of platforms that you can build your portfolio on. I recommend Webflow, ReadyMark, Framer, Wix, Adobe Portfolio, Squarespace, right? So when people ask me what should I use to be my portfolio, to be honest, I don't really like to give like, oh my god, use Framer, use Webflow. I always say just explore the platform, choose the one that you want. Because personally, I went from Webflow to Framer and then from Framer to ReadyMark. So they all have their disadvantages and advantages, but then just use them to your advantage. And then you can also decide to custom code your portfolio if you're feeling fancy and you have the time and you have the skill. Feel free to do that. You can decide to use existing templates, edit it to your style, right? There's no rule to it. Just do what you think will make your life easy, save you time, get you a job faster. So portfolio platforms I don't recommend. Google Drive or Dropbox link. Please don't do this. Like, I mean, even when I was a beginner, I would see someone's portfolio as Google Drive link, and I'm like as a beginner, it did not make sense. So even now, it still doesn't make sense. Like, why you just see Google Drive link, throw it in the bin. So I don't recommend. Please don't use Google Drive or Dropbox link as your portfolio. You might be asking, oh my God, I've not been able to get a job. Maybe this might be the problem, right? So I would also not recommend PDF portfolios now, right? When I started, my first portfolio was actually a PDF portfolio, but now these days, especially for product design roles, it's a bit outdated because it's like static. It's not really showing much interactions. So I wouldn't recommend PDF portfolios anymore, right? I mean, PDF portfolio, it was really good. I mean, it got me a really, really, really good job. But now, exactly what I was talking about, growth mindsets, things change in design. So you can't be stuck like, oh my God, this is what I want to do forever, right? So just be open to change. You might wake up tomorrow and it's something entirely brand new, and you just have to adapt. So I don't recommend PDF portfolios. I don't recommend Instagram as a portfolio, but of course I recommend Instagram as one of your building in public kind of thing. Share your work as many places as you can: Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, but Dribble, Behance, anywhere, as many. But I would say still have a properly curated portfolio, right? So in terms of Instagram, not don't have Instagram as like your only portfolio, right? But have it as a place where you build publicly. So I had LinkedIn portfolio section. I don't like people that use this one. Please, that's a no no. I won't even talk much about this. Notion. So Notion is a bit tricky. So that's why I added like a question mark. It's a bit tricky when it comes to product design. So I feel like Notion and PDF portfolio are sort of almost in the same. Well, no, not really, because on Notion you can add like GIFs and videos. But then I don't recommend Notion because I feel like people usually recommend Notion, especially design tutors. When you join all these boot camps, they recommend Notion because it's easy. It's just very easy to create. You can do it in one day as far as you already have all your projects backlogged, right? But it's easy. But the truth is that if you want to land a job and you want to like be out there, you have to sort of come out from things that are easy, put in the hard work, right? Creating a website might be hard, but just put in the hard work. So I don't recommend Notion. And also because I've specifically seen like job applications where they said, they stated no PDF portfolios and no Notion, right? So people would say, oh no, just use Notion. And the truth is that the people recommending Notion portfolios, they don't use Notion portfolios themselves, right? So I don't really recommend it, right? And another thing I also look at when it comes to portfolio is if you bring like 100 designers and think about those 100 designers, how many of them landed a job with Notion portfolios? How many of them was approached by a recruiter like, oh, somebody saw your portfolio somewhere, they liked it and they reached out to you, and it was a Notion portfolio? If it's just two persons in 100, then that's a very, very low number. So that's why I don't recommend it, right? But if you're just starting like a junior design, I think Notion is a good place to like document everything that you're learning, like just keep it there and all of that. But when it comes to having a portfolio, please just give yourself that extra stress of building something, right? So if you want to see results and you want to be able to see like good jobs come to you, just I would say don't try to always do things the easy way when it comes to portfolio. So that's just my thought on Notion. But then again, they just might be somebody who Notion portfolio is working for, right? So again, it's not like a do or die thing, but it's just my personal recommendation. I don't recommend it. Just try. And with website builders, like these days, you can build a portfolio in 1 week. There's so many Framer templates, webflow template, ReadyMark, everywhere you go. Like in fact, like there are more templates than there are even people to use. So free ones, paid ones, like, so I don't see a reason why, in fact, a designer should not even have a portfolio in this day and age because there's so many free resources, right? So please, try to just, these are the ones I don't recommend. Okay, so the last thing I'll just be covering before we like round it up is for those who are transitioning from graphic design or just purely UI design to product design, right? So this is very personal to me because I was a graphic designer and a brand designer before I became a product designer, right? So, and me being a graphic designer, brand designer, it sort of, there was an ease to it because I was already very well versed in like visuals, text, colors, typography, all of those things, right? So it was sort of easy, but then there was still a lot more to cover. So if you're transitioning, I'll just say that they're not too far fetched, right? So you have an advantage. You have an advantage. And I would also recommend not to throw away your skill, right? Maybe it's just me personally, but like I don't know how to throw away my skills. Like if tomorrow now I learn like something new, I just feel like I'll still be like graphic design, brand design, product design joined together with that new thing, right? So I don't really recommend that, okay, you're learning this and then you completely throw away graphics. I feel like it's going to help you in so many ways that you would not know. It might even give you an advantage. I've had a job where I was hired because they saw that I could do graphics and I could do product design, right? So it might just be an advantage to you. So I don't recommend throwing it away. So what are the key similarities between these two industries? They both focus on creating visually appealing designs, right? And then they use common tools like Figma and Adobe XD. So in Figma and Adobe XD, even though they are not graphic design tools, you can create graphics, pitch decks, flyers, posters, even print design, roll up, backdrop. You can create them on Figma and Adobe XD these days, right? So and all of that. So what are the differences between the both of them? So graphic design and UI design focuses more on like visuals and aesthetics and brand identity. But then product design is a whole lot more than that. It encompasses the entire user experience from research to prototyping to visual design to iteration and problem solving, business, meeting business objectives, conversing with stakeholders. It encompasses all of that. And I think another personal, for me, this one is like a personal difference about graphic design and product design is in product design, the corrections, they don't end, right? Because in graphics, if I do a banner, we might just go around the correction like two, three times, share the design, and they will literally have no reason to contact me again. We don't have any talk together. But then when it comes to product design, you design an application or a web application, a mobile application, sorry, or a web application. Your work does not just end at the design. In fact, I think your work is just beginning because you have to also align with the developer, hand it off to them, and then after building it, you also have to check if what they built is in correlation with what you design. And then after doing that, you also have to go back, make corrections. So I feel like when it comes to like iterations and corrections, I think that's even one of the things that tires me out about like product design. Corrections and iterations, they never end. Unlike brand identity, if I design a logo for you and I give you the logo, like, I don't need to talk to you again. Our work has ended, right? I give you your brand guide, like, go on with your life. But then in product design, it's like a cycle that never ends, sort of. So that's also a difference. So if you're transitioning, like I said, your visual design skills are very important. Like you already understand how colors, typography, all of those things they work, layouts, the principles and the element of design. So that's like an added advantage. So now you have to now learn how to you have to understand user experience design. That's when it comes to user research, understanding users pain points, how to conduct user research, different kind of user research methodologies, qualitative user research, quantitative user research, mixed, all of those things, diary studies. You have to learn how to create personas. You have to learn how to conduct usability testing. I think there's something else I'm missing. So in product design, there's a science to it, right? So there's a visual, but then every visual has a certain standard. For example, the font of a website has to be like this size to this size, right? And so you also have to learn how to understand systems, design systems, right? So in when it comes to like the ecosystem in design, there are like two major stakeholders. That's material design and what's the other one? I think iOS design, right? So these two things you have to study the guidelines. There are guidelines on how to design for Mac OS, design for Apple OS. There's guideline on how to design for Apple phones and all of that. So you have to study those things. If you're designing for with material design to all the guidelines, so you have to really, really study those things to understand like those guidelines. They would help you. So even most of other people that now have their design systems, those design systems were built upon like these like material design foundation and iOS foundations. So you have to learn that, right? So of course you have to learn product strategy, right? It's just beyond visuals. How does design impact business goals, right? And then you have to learn how to align your work with product roadmaps, you work with product managers, you have to learn how to do all of that. So Also, if you're transitioning from graphic design to product design, you have to learn how to think holistically. In fact, design generally, like one of the hardest part of design is thinking. Like it's just so hard, right? Personally, I think designing inside Figma is even easier than thinking about like the idea that you want to, like the solution to a problem. Sometimes could take days, and it's just very, very exhausting. So you have to learn how to think holistically as a product design because you are focusing on like the user's entire journey, right? Not just individual screens, right? You might design a screen or you might be feeling fancy and like, oh, let me just add this screen. But then that screen you're going to add is going to lead to like 10 more steps, right? And then if it's a product that is in like a very big tech company, they can't make those kind of changes so easily. If they're making any change, they have to consider the entire product because one change can break or make the entire product. So as a product designer or as someone transitioning from graphic design to product design, you're now thinking beyond logos, banners, and flyers. You're thinking about holistic. You basically just learn how to think holistically, right? So another thing again, like, is to embrace iterations, which I already said. One of the things I don't really like about product design is corrections never end. Iterations just never end. So you have to learn how to embrace it, learn how to design is all about product design specifically again, is all about feedback, right? So your design will go through multiple stages. You might even end up designing an entire product that will not be accepted. And you have to start again from scratch. That can be very mentally exhausting. So you have to learn how to embrace iteration, right? How to accept feedback. On the other hand, too, if you're someone that gives feedback, you have to learn how to give feedback because there's a way, constructive way to give feedback. So now this is just we're almost done. So this is just an added point, right? So this is why you need to learn about your basic foundation principles of design because somebody who has like good understanding of principles and elements of design gives better feedback than someone else. So this is what I mean. You see a design and then someone's like, oh my god, what kind of horrible design is this? This is the worst design I've ever seen. But a better way to give feedback might be like, um, your text is not aligning well, and I think the colors, like the accessibility of the color, like it's just more specific and constructive. The other way is like a very ras way to is a very ras way to give feedback, like saying, or sometimes when you receive feedback and someone say it could be better. Personally, I feel like that particular word just icks my ear. What do you mean by it could be better? Although I learned to just ask, okay, what can be better about it? Especially if it's a design that I think is good, right? So I try to know what, ask questions to understand more in depth what they mean, right? But then, so yeah, understanding your principles and elements of design. So even when like you're in a position where you're leading other designers, you can give better feedback and not give them crazy feedback like this is terrible. Like it's just confusing. She can give more specific, more constructive feedback, right? Because even those constructive feedback are easier to work for. If I know that the problem with this design is the button, I know I'm going to change the button. But when someone tells you that this is horrible, where do you want to start from? Like you don't really know what's horrible about it, right? That's if obviously design is not like clearly bad. You don't really know what to start about it. But if I know that it's the color or the font or the type, or the layout or the alignment or the spacing, like I know what to work on. So yeah, that's it for so I just talk about success stories of people who have transitioned from graphic design to product design. So Julie's Wo is she was like a one-time VP of product design in Facebook, right? That was, yeah, when it was just Facebook. Now it's Meta. She transitioned from being a graphic designer to becoming in the company. I think she came in as as a graphic designer, but then eventually grew into becoming the VP of product design there. So that's like a very big one. And I like her because I follow her work on LinkedIn. Like she like makes a lot of sense, right? So she's like my far away mentor. So there's also Tobias Van Schneider. He was a former graphic designer who became a lead designer at Spotify, but now he now runs his own startups. So there's Mike Davidson. He moved from graphic design to being the head of design at Twitter. So right. So if you're a graphic designer trying to transition, you have a lot of advantage, right? It's not a disadvantage, right? So and our success stories to me, right? I might not be like Julie, Duo, or Tobias, but like I transitioned from graphic design to product design. So yeah, I think this is where we'll come to an end and we'll take questions and all of that. So yeah.
Wow, amazing. That was a lot to that was a lot to take in, and I see a lot of people, almost everybody have questions, right? So Okay, so let me start just based on the questions we got from those who registered. Somebody is asking, how do you deal with imposter syndrome when transitioning to a new career in product design?
Okay, imposter syndrome when transitioning to a new career. Ah, okay, so first of all, I would say give yourself grace. Take it easy on yourself, right? Um, and then also know another thing. All of us we suffer from imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not trying to just make you feel good, but to be honest, most of the seniors you look at, like, oh my god, they're so good and great. They sometimes they have like fears and anxiety and all of that. Like me now preparing for this whole event, and I had like a I also had like another teaching series earlier before this. Behind the scenes, sometimes I'm literally very, very anxious, right? But so I'm just trying to make you know, let you know that it's something that is very common. On the other hand, just give yourself grace, allow yourself to be a learner, because sometimes you think that you're transitioning, you're just going to be perfect in just one day. That's not possible, right? You cannot suddenly be perfect. So allow yourself be a beginner, right? You're a beginner. So obviously there are just a lot of things you will not know. Allow yourself be a beginner. Allow yourself to learn from scratch. This will be hard because if you're someone like me that I don't like to be a beginner, like I started a course, and if I start something and I start struggling, I'm going to leave it. Like most likely going to leave it because I don't like to struggle. I like to be perfect immediately I start something. So allow yourself be a beginner, give yourself grace, remind yourself that you're doing okay, and you get better with time, right? Because sometimes imposter syndrome means that you're lacking a skill. So if imposter syndrome can be like different things, maybe it's a skill issue, sometimes just like your personal issue, right? If it's a skill issue, refine, just learn more, because the more you learn, the better you get at something, the more confident you become. So if it's a skill issue, you also just try to like identify areas you're lacking in and practice and learn more. So that would be something that would be my answer for this one.
Amazing. Let me take one more. How do
Okay.
you secure jobs for your respective creative career paths? Yeah,
Okay.
in this sense, being a product designer, what's the best way to start securing jobs?
Okay, so the best way, I think I already talked about, excuse me. So I already talked about some of it, which is um first of all, ensure that you have a good portfolio, right? Your portfolio is like, it's nice, it's giving proper case studies, all of that. So if you have a good portfolio, put your resume together, make sure you know how to do the job that you say you know how to do, right? So you have all those things. So how do you now secure jobs? Because if you're trying to secure jobs and you don't have a portfolio, please, you have to go and start again, start like go back to the ABC. But if you have all this, so what you do next is, I talked about apply, right? Apply strategically. Let's say I'm a beginner designer. Obviously, you start applying for like, or let's say you start applying for things like senior product designer, hoping that somebody will just pity you and just give you the job. That might just, you might just be shooting yourself in the foot, right? So apply for things that you think, they'll say don't apply for jobs that you are 100% qualified for. But I would say try and see if you match at least 70% of what's needed or 50% and give it a shot, right? So you keep apply to as many roles. So when it comes to job application, is a thing or is a game of numbers. The more you apply, the more you're likely to get an interview. The more you interview, the more you're likely to land a job, right? So another thing I would also recommend is freelancing. So if you could try freelancing platforms, Upwork, Contra, even in those freelancing platforms, you have to still apply. You have to still like consistently apply, right? I remember I said something about applying for jobs is a job on its own. It's like stressful on its own. So just prepare your mind that this thing is going to be very stressful. So apply, build publicly, let everybody in your life know that you're a designer. This is what you do. So because what you're doing by doing that is that you're buying a share of their mind, right? It's like a business. When you think about soft drink, what's the first product that comes to your mind? Coca-Cola, Fanta, because they're all up in our faces. When you think about cars, what's the first car that comes to your mind, right? Maybe Honda. I'm not really a car person. Yeah. So when you think about all of these things, think about like clothes. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? So in that same way, as a designer, you have to understand how business works, how psychology and advertising works. So with that, you put yourself in front of everybody, I'm a designer. This is what I do. So when jobs come, or when like, oh, they know somebody who knows somebody that is looking for a designer, you are the first person that comes to their mind. So build publicly. Also building publicly, you're putting yourself out there. A client, somebody might just see it and just like, oh my god, this design is really good, right? Might be a recruiter, might be a freelance gig, right? So yeah, these are my recommendations on how to get like product design jobs. But keep in mind that this, especially these days, trying to get a job is not very easy. It's actually it's very difficult. So even as you're trying to like get a job, give yourself grace, take it easy, right? And keep refining on, if you send your portfolio to like 100 job applications and there's no one feedback, then it means that you have to probably go back and just do some refining, right? At least in 100, there should be like one or two, three, four, five interviews or responses. So yeah, that's there's that one too.
Okay, let me see. Does anybody have a question from the floor?
Yeah, please, if you have a question, you
If
can
you have a
just like
question,
type it in.
just raise, yeah, you can type it in or just raise your hand and I'll give you an opportunity to ask the questions. All right, so another one is okay, this person is even asking, okay, is product design marketable?
Marketable.
Yeah,
Is the person
that's
here? Can you clarify on
I
what they mean by?
so the question is it like lucrative? Can you earn basically? What's the earning power
Yeah,
for it?
it's very high depending on what you can offer. It is actually, I would say it's
Yeah,
very lucrative. Just that getting your first gig might be very hard, but it is lucrative.
yeah, yeah. How do you spot how do you spot those jobs that are good and those jobs that are not? It's actually a question someone else asked.
This one is very easy because I have a lot of bad experiences. So
Oh,
I
really?
love that. Yes, no, I have plenty bad experiences. So
The thing is, I think it comes from understanding how, oftentimes if you're starting out, you work as an intern. Sometimes you even do free gigs just to put your foot at the store
yeah.
and put your work out there and all that. So then, what's the underlying factor that helps you make that decision to go for something or not go for something?
Okay, so if you're a beginner, like an absolute beginner, my recommendation is just get anything you can get, right? Prepare just, especially in this part of the country like Nigeria, prepare your mind that it might not be the best, but you just need something. But then why if you get a job that you think is bad, while you're at it, just always have a plan. Don't stay there forever. Once you notice that, these guys, their heads are not correct, try to have an escape plan. Another thing when it even comes to job is if you take a bad job and you stay there, the longer you stay there, the worse your life gets, right? Because if you took a bad job when you were 18 and then you were there to like 25, and then now you're married, you have a child, and then 27 you're still in the job. By 27 when you already have a child, it's going to be harder for you to want to leave. So always be strategic about that. So if you take a bad job, I would recommend that as a beginner, take whatever you can get as you're starting out, right? So when you continue growing, have a plan. Don't stay there forever. Don't stay in a toxic job forever because to kill your self-esteem, to kill your skills, kill you, right? But just take whatever you can. Now, to the person, how do you recognize bad jobs? So bad jobs, number one, those jobs that are trying to make you do everything, right? The ones that the graphic designer, you're the marketing manager, you're the product manager, still the one coding. I think that's like you should run away for your life, right? It's not specific. Please run away for your life. That is most likely not going to end well. Except you really need a job so bad, then take it. But then if those ones, no specific this thing is a bad job. So another point would be like from the way they hire, right? I think my friend was saying that when you see a job that is hiring with Google Docs, it's most likely going to be a bad job. And yeah, in a way he's actually right, because sometimes the way people hire, if they really put effort into a company, because you see more bigger companies, they have like specific platforms for hiring. It's not like a standard, or it's just a thought, it's just what he has noticed, right? So the way they hire, maybe you have an interview, they don't show up, or they show up, they're rude to you, that is most likely a red flag. I would say listen to your intuition. If you get like an ick about it, most likely it's not going to turn out well. right? A company that has no structure for you as like the company doesn't have any structure. The same thing with you being the product manager and you're the marketing manager, you're the social media guy, you're also the graphic designer. That's not going to buy. If there's anything you can take, maybe things that are more closely niche, like maybe in design engineering, you are the designer and you can also code. At least you know you're employed as a design engineer, right? Or you're a graphic designer and you're also a product designer. That's even more closely niched, you know, or a user researcher and still a product designer. That's more closely niche, not the one that you're the product designer and you are the marketing manager, or product designer and you're the social media manager and the video editor. That's like crazy. So the ones that do, companies that have good hiring standards, right? They have proper processes, right? Sometimes you know those jobs that, oh, you just applied for and that day they gave you the job. Well, in my experience, it doesn't always
Question
turn out
mark.
good. It doesn't always turn out good. So, but those ones that usually take more time, it might be stressful, but most times when you get in, like, it's better process, better structure, better experience, right? So good ones again, they have a standard, a structure for career progression, right? They have, like, you come in as a junior designer, and then in 3 years' time, you're a senior product designer. Like, they have very good career progression. You see people, they get in, they grow, they become better. That's a good company, right? Another one is they have perks. There's health insurance, allowances here and there. You can take leave. It's not the one that on Christmas Day they expect you to be working. On Salah Day you are there. New Year, Easter, every year still there, right? You're there in your family event. You're still trying to send a design. They have a structure. They have a leave plan, maternity leave, sick leave, all those things. They have like plans for all those things. There are perks, health insurance, allowances here and there that help you to function better and do your work better. In companies like that, you notice that people always last. Sometimes they might even be there 5 years, 7 years, right? Because they're being treated well. So yeah, those are very good companies. Career progression, perks, and all of that. Companies that they give access to like conferences, they have events going on. You get there, you network with people. You can even be the one representing them at a conference. That's a very good, like, I would say that's a very good company. That's a very good job to look out for. What else? Yeah, I think these are my answers for now.
Amazing. Thank you, Lois. So, quick one. Somebody is asking if you can share the slide,
Oh yeah,
just
sure.
for
I would
reference
share this
purposes.
slide.
Okay, so if she shares the slide, when we put out a replay of this video, we'll just add the link to download the slide. That'll be on YouTube. You can follow us on WhatsApp to join our community. Okay. You've just shared the link to the slide.
Yes, although this is like my Figma prototype shop, but yeah, it works. You can just like
Okay, you
go
can
through
view it
it.
there. Then, lastly, you most recently you put out two things actually. Number one, you had a product you were selling. Can you tell us a bit about that? And is it still on sale?
Oh yeah, it is. So I wrote a book. I wrote a book
Okay,
actually. So it's
you can share the link
let
to
me just
that as well. And the second thing is
yeah.
you also gave access to like you were building a community of product designers. If you're just starting out, like product design 101. You had like a course.
So it's a guide on being a product designer. It's free.
Okay,
So
so you
can
can share that link as
Notion.
well.
Yeah, I just shared it now. It's an 8 weeks guide to becoming a product
Okay. And
designer.
what's the feedback from that? What are people saying about it?
Wow, it's been so massive. Like it's even more than I expected. And then it has like 6,000 views, almost at 7,000 views now. So
Wow.
different people from different diverse locations, Nigerians, Germans, Indians, like different people. So yeah, the feedback has actually been really good. It's even been much more than I expected. So let me get the link for the
Can
book.
people still join that course?
Oh yeah, it's free. Like you don't need to even sign up. Just once you just click on the link, the resources there, everything is free. It's like a compilation of open source things.
Amazing. You've gone above and beyond to share us very useful resources here. Really, really
Yeah,
grateful
you're
for
welcome. So
that.
I just found the link to my book now. It's called Becoming a Better Designer. So that's the link. If you want to purchase it, feel free. I would also love to hear your feedback. Or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Felicity Lois Wanze, or you can follow me on Twitter, Lisha Lois, Lisha underscore Lois. What's my Twitter handle again? I don't even know. Yeah, Lisha underscore Lois. And yeah. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So at least I try to respond to messages on LinkedIn.
Amazing. I think that there are a lot of young product designers that have been really impacted by what you share on LinkedIn and some of the few resources you share and even the courses you put out. Great work you're doing, Lois. I thank you for honoring our invitation. And you typically have like a really busy schedule, but I'm really glad you're able to do this. Very, very grateful.
Yeah, I'm also glad that I was here. I'm excited to be here. I don't know if you can see the excitement on my face. I'm actually very happy.
All right, guys. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. We'll have another one, typically 7 p.m. next week. We'll have another session like this, probably with another tech experts within the various categories we have. Again, like I said, you can create an account on my spot. It's totally free. We are doing a lot, just trying to support the ecosystem with what we have and also support African talents with the resources and skills for them to earn better and get more connection when it comes to getting more jobs and awareness. All right. So till we meet again next week, enjoy your weekend. Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you,
Bye,
Lois. Bye.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. Cheers. Bye.